Sorry about that. That was not really an emergency, but it sounded like one. My husband's a little dramatic. Gotta love him. But I wanted to make sure everything was okay. And you could have just told me that right there, but yeah, you know. All right, I'm back. So you already have the mutations. Okay, so you're running around and you drop from like an autoimmune disorder and all of this. And so, how did that happen? What the heck? And so, so why did you get the rheumatoid arthritis? Is because you already had mutations in your body. And so if you already had mutations in your body and they attacked probably maybe one of your organs or systems was targeted and attacked, and then over time, as you are running and doing all of your crazy exercises and everything else and your lifestyle, and you're not reinforcing the nutrition, you have parasites and you have fungus, then that's when that antibody will trigger, because that's a weakness. Those are all backdoor triggers. Every single antibody that you test positive for is a backdoor trigger that may or may not come into fruition based upon your lifestyle. So in a lot of ways, what it is these antibodies are judge, jury, and executioner. So you're always going to be teetering on that line in our society, because you're always acquiring antibodies because you're in a polluted society with people who have been recently vaccinated because they believe in that. And then you as a person have to learn how to live to where you're not triggering these backdoor triggers. And this is what Alex Jones was talking about in so many words. He mentioned backdoor triggers, but what the hell does that mean? Backdoor triggers. What the hell's a backdoor trigger? It's not all the additives, because we're exposed to, aborted feed cells in our food supply. We're exposed to mercury and aluminum and formaldehyde in our food supply. So what in these vaccines would be a backdoor trigger? What would they be? And then they're talking about, so now it's understanding that the titer test tells you all of the backdoor triggers that potentially you and your child and your family would potentially come, trigger and come down with some kind of autoimmune disorder based upon those antibodies in your body. Now, I've been heavily vaccinated, yes. When I came here to America in 1975, the vaccines back then, when I was in the military and re-enlisted twice, the vaccines then. So who knows what the hell they gave me in the military. And they experiment on their population. But I did, what I dealt with was premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And it did happen not too long after I recently, I enlisted a second time, which tells me that some hormone or something else was induced and it caused a major imbalance somewhere. But so that's the thing. So I had all these different antibodies in my body, and just a matter of your biochemistry, which one of those antibodies are going to trigger and then turn into a full-blown disease, chronic illness, cancer, disease, and chronic illness. And so, so then I was like, okay, so then now we got to look at when you're testing positive on your titer test, it's showing you those future triggers. Those are the future triggers Jillian is talking about. When I'm talking about Jilly Juice in the past, present, and future triggers, so it doesn't matter if you've exposed your kid to the measles in a measles party versus getting a vaccine. It doesn't matter which way or the other you acquire the disease. If you're exposed to a disease, you've been vaccinated, you've created antibodies, and it's just a matter of time before that future trigger turns into something huge. And you may already have mutations in your body that, like, let's say your mom died of breast cancer, And now you have all these backdoor triggers swimming around your body from being vaccinated as well as being exposed to vaccinated people. Guess what? It's only a matter of time before you trigger that genetic mutation that was never corrected. So the biotech, it's all in plain sight. They're giving you what you need to know. And I'm just giving you a clue on what potentially could be your future if you don't change your biochemistry. So forget all the political platforms and forget all the political stuff. Forget all of that. And let's look at the actual science of the body. Okay? And so that's the whole thing with the AIDS, because that was what I grew up with. So that's what I focused on originally in my first book. I originally focused on the AIDS virus because I'm like, how does that never ever was a problem before the 1980s, before 1985. It was never a problem before 1985. But then all of a sudden in 1985, there's an epidemic. What? It just spontaneously just materialized? What the hell? And in my mind, I knew it wasn't correct, but how I could articulate it, I had a problem with that because I didn't know how to exactly articulate it and give you all of the substantiated evidence to then lead up to that conclusion. Now we know, because we're looking at now history. Before the white man, the Spaniards came on to America, the Indians were doing just fine. Soon as the white man came into America, they brought in all of their crazy diseases. And guess what? It almost decimated that population. They were getting sick. Why? Because that pathogen, the white man and all of their diseases and all of their experiments from Italy, because there's a lot of science and stuff going on in Italy, playing with DNA and playing with bacteria, they brought that all to this land. And that was an introduction. That was an introduction of a pathogen to a population. Now, there's no way to protect yourself from these pathogens because you have to have the pathogen. But what is protection? What? So you're already mutated and you have a low immune system. So you're saying that getting a vaccine, the weakened virus or an inactivated virus, is going to protect you from somebody that has it? Somebody that has it received it from another vaccine. A person doesn't just materialize a disease that's so severe that you have to get a vaccine, a weakened version of that disease in a vaccine. No. Anyone that has a disease out there, it was introduced to them because a body doesn't just materialize some severe disease. It may have triggered, and if you've never been exposed to that type of disease, you're going to catch it. Regardless, it doesn't matter if you've been, it doesn't matter. But if you've already been exposed to it, then don't worry about it. If you've already been through the sickness, then don't worry about it. So either way, you're going to get vaccinated according to the CDC from exposure as well as from a vaccine. So any pro-vaxxer that says, oh God, these people who are unvaxxed are, pathogenic. Hello, do you not know what's in your vaccines? Someone that catches a disease means that they never had that disease before ever in their life, and you just gave it to them because you are a carrier now. Your kid was just recently vaccinated, which means that the inflammation is out there and they're shedding. So this is why I say to the anti-vaxxers, please go get a titer test so you don't have to go and get a vaccine, regardless if it's a green vaccine or GMO vaccine. And then do Jilly Juice if you're so inclined, if you haven't been brainwashed by my trolls. Do Jilly Juice. And then reverse and proactively go after those future triggers. Because no matter what, you've been exposed to probably every single disease that's out there that's been created by biotech. And you probably already have the antibody. Now, if there a test for that antibody is a different story. I was looking in requestatest.com and there is no test for the Ebola virus. But there is a vaccine for it. but it hasn't made it to, hey, do I need to get tested for the Ebola virus? I was looking for it, couldn't find it, and then I saw that NIH or NCBI already had a vaccine for it, but it hasn't made it to the requestatest.com, which tells me at some point down the road, we're going to have an epidemic. And if there's an epidemic and they're releasing these vaccines of the Ebola virus, don't get it. You know your friends are going to get it because they don't know any better. So you know you're going to have that exposure. Now, will you come down with a full-blown Ebola virus? Probably depends upon your biochemistry. If you have a low immune system, most likely. But even though you've been exposed to it on a very superficial basis, you're not having sex, but you're just exposed to it, then when they release the test, then you can go and get a test for the Ebola antibody. And if you've been exposed to it because it's now finally circulating in the population here, then you say, hey, yeah, I have the antibody for the Ebola virus. Great. You don't have to suffer the vaccine and potentially suffer the disease, even though it's a weakened version of it. The reason why we don't have the Ebola virus is because they haven't really circulated, and it's not contagious in the way they say it was. Because we've had scares in like Texas and some other place, was it Michigan? But it never spread beyond that proximity. They say, oh yeah, we contained it. So what? One day we're going to have a bunch of people from a different country just come in one area and then go off and then say, oh, no, they circulate all over the country. We can't find out where it is. So anyway, so yeah, once they release the vaccine, you know your friends. So yeah, you're going to have to rely on your friends to basically give you the antibody. So maybe we need to have pro-vaxxers. You know why? Because they're the ones that are going to take the bullet for you. So maybe it's not a good idea to dissuade the pro-vaxxers. Let them get all the vaccines, because then they'll give you the antibody, because that's what the CDC, if that's one of the requirements to get a job, is to have the Ebola virus antibody. Allow all the pro-vaxxers who are so staunch on this, so rigid in their belief system, let them get the vaccine. It's okay. And then you just say, hey, how you doing? Miss so-and-so, great. Let's hang out together. Ooh, I feel a little bit sick, but not too bad. I'll just keep drinking my J juice. But I did feel a little bit sick, right? You drink your J juice, you got the antibody, but you're keeping it at bay because you got the J juice. Then you go get a titer test, and there you go. You have the antibody. So there's a benefit to having still choices, because those that are really just, pro-vax, you can't change their mind. But you can see that they are the ones taking the bullet for you if you understand how antibodies work. And that's okay. And it sucks. Yeah, you don't like having your friends and family take bullets for you. But hey, if they want to, that's their choice. With all the amount of information on the internet, it is their choice to take a bullet for you. It is their choice. Okay? So understand that there is probably a benefit to the pro-vax community that will then vaccinate you, give you the antibody, and then you go get a titer test, and you didn't have to receive the vaccine at all because your friend did, and you're around your friend and they got you sick in some way. Because yeah, on jelly juice, you're going to get sick anyways because you're dealing with things coming to surface. But then also too, the new exotic viruses that are out there and your body doesn't recognize it, it's going to have to get sick, create the antibody, and then now there you go. You have now proof that you were vaccinated, and you don't even have to show a receipt. Just show the titer test. But then again, on the other side of it, that titer test is those future triggers. So you must keep that shit at bay. Don't let it turn into full-blown whatever it is, okay? So so understand that the pro-vaxxers have a place. There's nothing wrong with the pro-vaxxers. They are your first line of defense, so you don't have to get the vaccine. That's huge if you understand how antibodies work. All right. So, man. So I was thinking about if I were ever like a lawyer, okay, if I was ever a lawyer, and I'm watching all these shows about Chris Watts, and I'm watching the courtroom drama with Jodi Arias, and I'm looking at how they do interrogations and all of that, and it's very interesting. I mean, I say I'm very fascinated with the legal process. I'm very fascinated with the justice system. I'm very fascinated with just how our society runs. I'm very fascinated with knowing what the law is, because if you don't know the law, then you'll believe all the stories, right? So, you must be fascinated with how things work so you can get along in the society and still get your point across without being thrown in jail, without being thrown in Facebook jail, without being silenced by authority. Okay? So you always must make sure that you abide by the law. Don't be a vigilante, and don't do anything that's going to put yourself in any type of danger to be silenced. So I'm thinking about, some of these moms and these people that claim that they were sick. I'm thinking about the Dr. Phil show and those two ladies across from me. And I'm thinking, like, if I was a lawyer, how would I cross-examine the witness? How would I do it? Now, when it comes to witnesses that are like very articulate and crafty and manipulative, you have to control the questioning to still paint a pattern, paint a picture, without allowing them to get too much hearsay out into the jury, right? So watching Juan Martinez with the Jodi Arias case, he knew he was dealing with a very manipulative defendant who would find ways to distract and then go off on a tangent and completely just, not answer the question. So it really is about asking yes or no questions to people to then figure out their thought process and paint a story without going into hearsay. And so let's just, like, I don't know, have you done a mock trial, when you're a kid or when you're in school? I don't think I ever did, but I'm playing with, just in my head, a mock trial, So here's a potential case. Let's just make this as an example. A case of a mama and a baby making a claim of a sickness via J juice. Okay, so here is an interesting mock type of situation where, if I was a lawyer, how would I cross-examine this lady? So when your babies, here are the questions I would ask to paint a specific picture. When your baby or you are sick, do you call the doctor? Yes or no? She says yes. Because of course she doesn't want to say no. She doesn't want to come off like she's a bad mom. So of course she's going to make herself look good. Yes, I call the doctor if I'm sick. Okay. When you're in an emergency, do you call 911 or go to the ER if you or your baby was sick? Well, of course. Yes, I would go to the emergency room and I would call 911 if my baby or myself was sick. Okay. When you need surgery, do you go to a surgeon? Yes, of course. Where else would I go? Okay. When you need your taxes done, would you see an accountant to make sure you got all of your deductions and exemptions and everything else? Of course, I would see, All right. If your house is on fire, do you call the fire department or 911? Yes. Okay, good, because you've got to protect your baby, right? I mean, that's the whole thing, protect you and your baby. That's why you call the fire department. All right. When you allegedly got sick from the J juice, did your doctor confirm your sickness? Yes or no? They say yes. Oh, okay. Did you drink J juice right before you got sick? Yes. Okay. Did you find the recipe online? And they say yes or no. Or from a friend? Yes or no. Or from the book? Maybe they bought the book? Yes or no. A family member? Yes or no. Whatever the case is, however they found my recipe, whether it's from online, from a friend, or my book, or from a family member, they found the recipe somehow. Do you normally drink very salty and smelly drinks? Yes or no? No. Ah. Did you research Jilly Juice prior to ingestion or feeding to your child? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. In your research, did anywhere say Jilly Juice creator was licensed by the state or a doctor as a nurse or nutritionist, homeopathic, allopathic, etc.? No, I didn't see anything like that. Now, let's say that, they didn't research Jilly Juice. Then I would say, hey, do you normally drink something you never research? Yes or no? And they would say no or something, right? So anyways, then do you normally take direction from the internet without checking with your doctor? Yes or no, regarding health and wellness of you and your child. Do you normally take, so now it's going to paint this mother as, oh, does she take direction from strangers? Or is she still this good mommy that goes to the doctor? And she's in front of a courtroom full of her peers who are going like, is she a good mommy? Is she not a good mommy? So do you normally take direction from the internet without checking with your doctor regarding the health and wellness of you or your child? Yes or no? Yes. So should you have taken the protocol info and ran it by your doctor first so you can get their professional opinion before giving it to your child? Yes or no? Yes. No further questions. And that's it. That's all. Okay? So anyone that claims anything about J-Juice, especially if they're going to go get confirmation from the doctor that J-Juice destroyed them, well, if you are such a good person by going to the doctor, why the hell would you take any information off the internet and do it and then blame the person when you should have went to your doctor to get an okay by them, if that is your position that you need to blame somebody? Where is your responsibility? And this comes when the victim and perpetrator, as above, so below. So what was the intention of this alleged victim here? What was the intention? The intention was to defame me, to harm me in some way. So then who is the real victim here? Is it her that claims that my juice destroyed her or hurt her and her baby? Or is it me being slandered by somebody who never took responsibility for their baby and themselves? This is what I'm saying. So when I went to the FBI yesterday, I felt like I was the perpetrator in a lot of ways. But see, the FBI doesn't know. All they see is there's a death threat against me. What the hell did I do to elicit that situation? They want to tell me, where's my responsibility in this? And they said, hey, if you're going to be out there saying these things, there's crazies out there. You got to expect it. And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Of course. But since I've never received something like that before, I felt it incumbent upon myself to just report it so people know. Awesome, Michelle. So that's why I'm saying, as above, so below. Anyone that makes a claim, regardless of what it is, whether you're a victim or a perpetrator, it doesn't matter who it is. You must substantiate that there was ill intent, and then where was your responsibility in that matter? Because intent is everything. The motive is everything. And then also damages. Okay? So, so this, and I was thinking about this morning, like, and I like the way the clues that Juan Martinez was talking about in that YouTube video. When you want to paint a specific picture about somebody's, what their intent or whatever accusation or where they were responsible, and you look at their life, how their life was led prior to whatever damages, and they somehow veered off and did something different, and then they're not happy with the outcome because they went off the usual, practice. Where were you responsible? If you believe, anyone that listens to anyone on the internet knows that they have to take their life in their own hands. They've chosen to get away from the professionals and take their own life in their hands and listen to their friends and family. But if you don't want to be damaged by something, then hey, guess what? When you give something to your baby or you give something to yourself and you're not sure about it, or you just drank it without even doing any research, that's your responsibility. If you believe in professionals taking care of specific things in society, shouldn't you have taken this juice to run it by them to make sure it was okay? Should you have? Yes. So then where's your case? Why would you do something that is not your usual practice? Oh, then this is then they'll say other hearsay. That's why I won't give any room for it. I won't leave an open question where they can say anything, because that's when hearsay comes in. And we don't live by hearsay. In the courtroom, it's yes or no. Did you or did you not? Did this happen or did this not happen? And that's it. Do you believe in this or do you believe in that? Yes or no. Now she could have said, oh, I don't believe in doctors. I don't believe in this. Then what the hell? Then there's your responsibility already. But since some people will say, oh, she's not a doctor. And this is usually the perspective when someone wants to blame me, is because I'm not a doctor. And that's what happened with those two ladies that were on the Dr. Phil show. They're like, oh yeah, I got to confirm by my doctor that I had a stroke and this and that. No. Well, she never took this juice to her doctor to begin with. She took her own life in her hands without doing the proper research. And if she really believed in the medical system, then she should have taken my juice to the medical system and had them analyze it and say, hey, what do you think? But no, people don't do that because they want to blame. They don't want to take personal responsibility. And so this situation, perfect scenario. I never claimed that I was a doctor. So if you're taking direction from the internet, that is your responsibility, regardless if it was me or an MLMer who's selling you Plexus or some other supplement. If you had a bad reaction to Plexus, would you blame the messenger? Or be like, oh yeah, okay, that's whatever. No, but since people like to attack somebody, they jump on a bandwagon. And that's where the groupthink and the hormones start triggering. It only takes one person or 5 people to start talking smack, and then the hormones kick in. And that's essentially what goes on with the trolls. They're full of hormones. Adrenaline. Oh my God, we're in danger. Oh my God, oh, she's crazy. And that's what runs our society. That's why I'm saying there are 3 things that kill a person. Candida and fungus, NK cells, T cells, antibodies, and a hormonal imbalance. Hormonal imbalance. So there you go. Case in point. So if I was a lawyer, that's how I'd cross-examine anyone that would make any claims. And I'd have them substantiate, Let's look at your background. What do you do? And then we start, then we have people going, and I'll have a lawyer or somebody go in and rip that person's life apart to figure out who this lady is, what her daily life is, what her practices are, how does she raise her kid. Oh yeah, whenever you claim to be a victim, especially a person that's that was raped, why rapists don't come forward? Because their whole life gets ripped open. When you were a victim of rape, they're going to figure out where you're responsible, and then they're going to look at your whole sexual history. Oh, so you normally go to the bar and wear a short skirt and get drunk and leave with some dude? Here on, October 5th, 2005, you were seen leaving a bar with some stranger that you didn't walk in with. Do you normally do that? And you were inebriated. The bartender saw that you were drunk and you were kissing all over this guy. Not saying that it does give any room for anyone to rape somebody, but they will definitely paint a picture of your morals. So no different than a person claims that they were harmed by jelly juice and their kid was harmed. They're going to look at, see, how are you as a mother? Do you normally take advice from strangers on the internet? Is that how you raise your child? You just give your child to a stranger? Like the thing with the Uber. Oh my God, there is this in Akron, and I was just floored. Somebody created an Uber service for mothers to give for the children. They hire people to cart children around to the different events. Holy crap. And I'm already going like, oh my God, that is the most horrific idea ever. They're like, oh, we do background checks and we do drug tests. It doesn't matter. It's always a first victim for one. And there are people that are so crafty that don't even get caught by the law. So I'm thinking like, oh my God, if a mother is going to give their kid to a stranger they don't even know, especially on the internet, but my God, put him in a car with a stranger, with an Uber driver that is allegedly being, vetted out. That's some scary shit. So yeah, I mean, anyone that claims to be a victim, and I learned that yesterday when I was at the FBI, claiming to be a victim of a death threat. Okay, I walked into their environment, I was subject to whatever. But you're just as guilty of eliciting this, both though someone did overstep their bounds with the law, I'm sure, if they can even find the person. But they're unfair at where I was responsible. And I took responsibility. Yes, I know. I took responsibility. I may have said some things that really triggered the population, And yeah, when you put yourself out there, there's always weird people. But they said, hey, just protect yourself, call 911, just the usual. Okay. And so Michelle Lee says, oh my God, so true. My son got bit by a wildcat. I refused a rabies shot. CPS was going to get called if I didn't prove I didn't care for my child by professionals. And so, yeah. So, that's the thing, is that we have to be aware. When we want to claim that we're a victim, we have to figure out where the hell we're responsible. Because victims don't just become victims out of nowhere. There is a context that leads up to their victimhood. There is a huge context, and it's up for the law and the officials to figure out why you're a victim. Why did you put yourself in this position to begin with? So yeah, even though I didn't like being interrogated, I knew it was necessary because, and I knew I had a gut reaction. Thanks, Michelle. I had a gut feeling that I knew I was going to be defending Jilly Juice. I know it because they're going to ask, because the guy was saying, oh yeah, the FDA, I got the FDA case against you because you did this, and that. And I'm like, the FDA doesn't even come into play with this. It's a cookbook. The FDA does not regulate cookbooks. Now, if you have a recipe that is just only sugar and that's it, well, people are not going to buy your cookbook if all it is just straight up sugar in a million different ways. Maybe some will, but I mean, hey, if you're creating a cookbook that is really just gross, no one's going to buy it. They'll be like, ew, you're putting that, if they're using just lard and using this crap, no one's going to buy it. So you leave it up to the market to decide if your recipe is something that is worth doing. But the FDA isn't going to regulate it. So that's where this kid was just like way out of line. So claiming all this stuff and saying, oh yeah, I have a case against you with the FDA. They're going to be contacting you. I'm not selling a product. Now, if I was selling a product, yeah. But I'm not selling a product. It's a book. It's a freaking book. It's a recipe. Come on. So yeah, so if you're going to be claiming victimhood, make sure that you don't want your whole life ripped apart. Because I know anyone that tries to come up against me for anything, and I do have lawyers on retainer for that, rip that victim's life apart. Because, hey, you're trying to defame my name? Well, we're going to look and see how it is you raise your children. And if you're claiming that Jilly Juice harmed you, then it shows that you're not exactly a very well-in-tuned mother that's willing to give your child to strangers, as well as take direction from the internet. But those that take direction from the internet and are getting good results, good on you. Those that take direction from the internet and getting bad results, shame on you. Because you haven't properly vetted out what it is that you're taking into your home from the internet, if you believe in professionals and licenses. Because that's everyone's thing about, Jilly Juice, she's not licensed, she's not a doctor. Then go see your fucking doctor. Why are you even looking at my way? So anyways, sorry. All right, so that's it. Sorry that I had to cut off in the middle because my husband called me and it sounded like it was an emergency, but it wasn't. He's just very expressive when he's not happy with something. So, but I thought something, he didn't tell me what it was. Like, oh, just call me when you get done. I'm like, how am I going to think that something is wrong with him? And I'm not going to just, you know, keep going with my transmission, having him wait there. I'm wondering if he's like on the road doing, I don't know, man. So my husband always comes first, really, you know, even with all of this, my husband comes first, even though I was in the middle of a great discussion with you guys. Damn, but he came first. And so I wanted to make sure that he was okay. Okay, so, but anyways, yeah, so there's my lesson for the day, right? And you guys just do the J juice, okay? In the prior video, I did a public apology on how it is I was focusing on the different mutations, and, you know, I didn't have all of my science and a well thought out delivery, so it didn't come out very well. So you go listen to the other video, and then, yeah, you know, the body, mind, and spirit, and then the AIDS and the HIV and the titer tests, and then victims and perpetrators, as above, so below, basically the same. And, you know, and we don't know, that the law has to find out who really is actually the victim, because anybody can claim victim, anybody. So then they have to figure out who really is the victim. And usually sometimes the perpetrator could be the victim, but sometimes the perpetrator could also be the perpetrator. Okay, but that's up to the law to determine. And then if you're going to put yourself in a courtroom setting where you're going to actually file paperwork and put yourself in that position, your whole life is going to be on display. And I'll tell you what, regardless of what anybody thinks about Jilly Juice, the defense is going to make sure they're going to paint and discredit the witness. And then everyone's going to know how you raise your child. Everybody. Do you really want that on display? Do you? All right. Okay, y'all are great. Thank you. Nice to see you, Michelle Lee. Everybody, nice to see all you. Have a good day. All right, bye.